He's editor-in-chief of Breitbart News and a New York Times best-selling author. And on this podcast, he brings deep research, prescient analysis, and world-class guests. He's Alex Marlow, and this is The Alex Marlow Show.
This is The Alex Marlow Show. Thanks, everyone, for being with me. Show's a little late today because I had a very busy morning. I was on Don Jr.'s show, which I think that comes out on Thursday, and then I was on Laura Trump's show, so I had to tape those. Those are great shows, but they're long. They're 40-minute hits, so I was a little fried. But now we're here. Laura Trump's show, a lot of fun. We were talking about the Joe Biden's mental decline. I don't know, guys, have you heard about this? But apparently Joe Biden was in mental decline, and people had covered it up. I have such a contrary take on this. No one covered up anything. We all knew he had mental decline. And it's funny because the left is just trying to figure out ways to make themselves, I guess, feel like there's someone to blame when it's really collective blame. I mean, they're all to blame for everything, but they're trying to figure out who to blame. They would like to blame Biden. Taylor Lorenz, you guys know Taylor Lorenz. She's the left-wing woman who is COVID hysteric and tries to get people canceled online. She retweeted a tweet of Joe Biden saying that he died. It was a fake tweet about Joe Biden dying, and then she said, "This tweet got my hopes up," with a upside-down smiley face. These people are very lost. They're very upset, and luckily, though, the new chair of the DNC he's going to be able to save them because they're building a shadow cabinet. Apparently, it's going to be good. Let's check this out. Let's see what they got. Let's see what we're going up against, guys.
Hey, it's Ken Martin. I want to tell you about the People's Cabinet that the DNC is launching today. I have been traveling across the country nonstop since I started this job, and what I hear over and over is this: Americans want us to fight back against Trump's lies and offer a better alternative. Trump has stacked his cabinet with out-of-touch billionaires who are causing chaos and hurting working people. That's why we are launching the People's Cabinet. It will be made up of experts, leaders, and everyday Americans who will share reliable and accurate information that you can use to fight back. Stay tuned for more.
We will stay tuned. That's on the Alex Marlow Show. It sounds like a content bonanza. Misty, you're on it. You're our official People's Cabinet reporter. So you got to make sure that we're getting all the stuff. So they're going to do a shadow government. That's fine. I mean, they do this in the UK where they kind of show you who would be in charge. But I think it's going to help us because, remember, they have no charismatic leadership other than our girl Jasmine. Spoiler alert, we have no Jasmine today. I didn't see a single Jasmine Crockett clip for the show today. So look, we're trying our best here, but we're not perfect, the Alex Marlow Show. So we'll try to give you more Jasmine this week. I can guarantee it. But other than Jasmine, like who they got is their leadership. So I'd love to see who this fake cabinet's going to be. Those of you who missed the visuals of that, he's the new pencil neck, because remember Adam Schiff, getting a little older, I think put on a little weight. He's turkey neck now because he's got that drape going underneath the chin. So he's not pencil neck. Ken Martin's is that his name? Ken Martin? I can't even keep track. He's a new pencil neck, and he just parks himself, I guess, in the middle of the street, and it's just a FedEx truck in the background. Is he in the delivery alley behind a building or something? Very strange place for video. They got nothing. Just a reminder, they got nothing. So anyway, but if you guys like seeing me pop up places, Laura Trump tonight or tomorrow, I think, and then Don Jr. later in the week. So those are all good, and you should get those. All right, before we get into the big business of the show, I've got some good news for the show. Our partners at Juven are re-upping with the Alex Marlow Show. That was an honor because it's a big deal to get these, build these relationships starting from scratch. So, and it's always important to remember this stuff because a lot of you might check out some of these advertisers because you trust me, because I'm not getting into business with bad people. But Juven, JUVENT.com/Marlow. That is it's a health wellness company. They've got those vibrating platforms, not really vibrating. It's the micro impacts, helps bone health, helps joint health. Very good for you, especially if you're getting a little older, have some injuries, things like that. Really, this is the way to go. They'll help you stay strong, active, and independent for years to come, but you got to start paying attention to your health today. So it's not too late. I can guarantee you it's not too late, but you go take their 60-second bone and joint health risk assessment, shows you exactly where you stand and how to get started. So they will give you real-time insight, quick results on your mobility, on your joint health. You could do this all from the comfort of your home. So it could be a wake-up call for you. If you're already dealing with aches, stiffness, joint discomfort, your body's giving you warning signs, so don't ignore them. So you take 1 minute, you can take control of your health, juvent.com/Marlow. You can take the quiz, get your results instantly. That's JUVENT.com/Marlow. Your future self will thank you. If you're thinking of a family member in this regard, they will thank you as well. And so, and also great partners. So we're very happy to have them back. You guys know we're about to get into tariff stuff, and no stock market's down a bit, but gold is still at around 3,000. So 3,000 right now, and obviously gold's up huge month over month. Year to date, gold's up big. Over 1 year, gold was at about 2,400 a year ago. So it's at 3,000 today. So gold's up massive. So that's 25% over the last year. So 27% to be precise. So it is, if you guys are looking for a hedge, if you're feeling insecure about the economy, and who isn't, let's face it, we all are to some degree. Gold's the way to go, and we have amazing partners at Priority Gold. So you go to prioritygold.com, or you can text FREEDOM to the number 24999. Those of you who've asked about this, you don't need to type in a whole 10-digit phone number. Just type in 24999. That's the phone number, and you text the word FREEDOM. They will fill you in. They've got a wealth defense guide, that they've got a gold and silver guide. They will help you understand what you need to do to get into a gold and silver IRA or 401k, tax and penalty free. And it is just, of course, it's a remarkable hedge against everything going on. And I'm very optimistic. Things are going to get better fast in this country. And I think things are going to be looking good long term, but there's no reason not to diversify your portfolio into gold, considering how hot gold is, and silver as well, because a lot of Trump's economy, I think, is going to make silver even more desirable than it is now. All right. So the big news right now is, prioritygold.com. The big news is the tariffs, of course. And I will tell you, they didn't panic when the Rust Belt was decimated. They didn't panic when the pipelines were shuttered. They didn't panic when the borders were reopened. They didn't panic when Biden inflation exploded. They didn't panic when 13 service members were killed in the botched Afghanistan withdrawal. But they're panicking now because the stock market sold off what I regard as sort of a sugar high from the end of Joe Biden's administration, where he spent as much as he could, as fast as he could at the very end to get all that money out the door. And so now stock market's kind of back where it was a year ago, roughly. And that is not the end of the world. So we have to hold the line. We have to keep fighting, and things are going to be okay. Things are going to be good. I think better than ever before. Golden age is upon us. Now, if that is a little speech is a little familiar to you, because you might have seen on my Twitter, I had a huge X blow up I basically tweeted that exact sentiment on, I guess it was Friday or Saturday. Allegedly 500,000 views on that, 4,000 retweets, 17,000 likes. I don't know if there's a real number, 70,000 likes. A lot of engagement. So any of you who promote my stuff on socials helps the show grow. So I appreciate it. But the sentiment is pretty clear, is that I think that Trump's perspective on trade is the right one. These nations are going to be coming to heel. They're going to cut deals with him. They're going to be favorable deals. We're going to couple the tariffs with deregulation and with tax cuts. Those are going to help things soar. And we have to be able to take a little heat, because Trump promised for 30 years that he wanted to do tariffs. There's an Oprah interview or something from decades ago where he said, we need tariffs, we're getting rolled on trade, we need to fix this. And he's finally doing it. And this is one of the things that we liked about Trump at Breitbart 10 years ago, when we started talking about the fact that NAFTA did not work out for America. We ended up just losing our industrial base and making us very vulnerable to places like China. And so there's going to be pushback, there's going to be give or take, but overall, we're seeing some real progress. Vietnam, who was tariffing us at 90% on average, and we barely tariff them at all. They now want to have deals where there's zero trade. The EU, the Ursula von der Leyen, I played a clip of her last week, the EU Commission president, saying that this is a disaster. The sky is falling, totally chicken littling it. Now she's at the table again. She's trying to look for opportunities for zero tariffs. This is why the reciprocal trade, which is tough to do exactly reciprocal. Some countries, it makes sense to have a bit of a trade deficit. Some countries, it makes sense for the tariffs not to be exactly 1-to-1. But they really want to have they have an opportunity to come to the table and renegotiate things with Trump so that the entire world can benefit, but most importantly, America can benefit, because that's our goal. We're America first. So the goal needs to be what is best for the American people. A lot of reshoring, I think, would help, and decoupling from China. So China is pushing back. And so there's a lot of give or take today in the news on China threatening Trump and saying that they're going to have a lot of retaliatory tariffs. And if you retaliate against Trump, he's just going to raise the tariffs. And there's a real grudge match going on because both nations, I think, feel like they're in a favorable position. China knows that America is hooked on cheap Chinese goods. They also know that we're dependent on China for stuff like clothes, rare earths, cheap pharmaceuticals. And so they think they've got us over a barrel. But Trump knows that China's economy is not that strong, and China's their birth rate is low. I was just discussing this with Carney on our Breitbart Fight Club show. They've got a lot of people who hoard cash because they don't trust the government. They don't trust that their money is safe. That they don't trust the safe in banks there. So there's a culture there that is not that strong right now. Remember, the younger people in China, they're not having children. It's giving them a birth rate crisis. They didn't do a great job with the virus also. They don't have a free press. So there's a lot of, I think, morass in that country. And Trump feels like he can make some moves. Now, they have the benefit, in this case, of they have a dictator for life in Xi Jinping. He's essentially the emperor of the country. And Trump, though, is not going to have to run for re-election again. And Trump's playing a long game here. I think Trump is looking at this over a time horizon of 100 years or so. And if he continues that, then I think that we're in a very good spot because I think that we could really harm China's economy if they don't come to the table. And though Xi Jinping technically can weather it politically because there's no real threats to him, I think for his country to thrive, that they've got to work with the United States in this. And so I think Trump sees this as a win-win, that the end game is either going to be that we decouple from China or we get them to loosen up a little bit while we reshore somewhat. And I think it could be a nice sort of middle ground. So I think that's how Trump is seeing it. And everything that I gathered over the weekend from observing Trump and the messaging, he seems very confident. He seems very strong on this and convinced that he's righteous. Let me give you some context. Earlier today, this is Monday, this is Trump at the White House with the LA Dodgers. I want to play you guys some of the vibe here. Check this out.
Congratulations, Brian. And others. We have a couple of senators here. I just don't particularly like them, so I won't introduce. Over the course of this.
So I'm guessing that California senators is who he's talking about, but you see him joking around. Like you got the big league baseball players behind him, and he's just making jokes. He's looking sharp. He's feeling good. He's completely on top of his game right now, and that's what we want to see. Because we were promised for so long, we were going to reset trade, that we were going to bring manufacturing back to some degree in this country, that we were going to stop letting the rest of the world stop being their piggy bank. He's talked about this for as long as he's been a politician and as long as we've supported him at Breitbart. And to see him do it finally, it just feels sweet. It feels great. And like we can handle whatever is thrown our way. We really can. So, all right, let's continue.
Over the course of this amazing season, the members of this team.
We love the senators, Joe.
I didn't think it was that big a deal, actually. Washington. Over the course of this amazing season, the members of this team gave us some of the most.
All right, let's go. I got a little more.
Including superstars Mookie Betts. Oh, is he good?
This is also an amazing moment, too, because Mookie Betts was on a Red Sox team that won the World Series during Trump's first administration. And Mookie Betts is one of the best players in Major League Baseball, if you guys don't follow it. So he's been an MVP, an unbelievable player. Seems like a good guy. LA is a local team out here, so I follow them enough. But I'll tell you, when he won the World Series on the Red Sox, when Trump was president, so this is the Dodgers team that won last year. And the Dodgers also won 2000, which is, I guess that was. I don't know when that visit would have been for, I'm sorry, 2020. Maybe that would have been post-COVID. They would have done the visit. So so Biden might have been in by that point. So anyway, the point is, Betts was on the team with the Red Sox, won the World Series, and he didn't go to the White House. He didn't like Trump. He didn't want to see Trump. And he's expressed regret for doing that, missing that opportunity. This is a really great celebration. If you're a big league athlete and maybe you come from a small town somewhere and you make it big and you win the World Series, and part of one of the rewards, you get to go to the White House and hang out with the president for the day. And Betts regrets missing the opportunity. And Trump, being magnanimous here, he goes up and he shakes his hand, singles him out. Very smart. Because remember, Trump is not just president for you and me and MAGA and the America First movement and the people who've been with him from the start. He's president for everyone else too. And it's nice to remember that. It's nice to remember that even if you are not in lockstep with him on every issue, if you're American, particularly a productive American who's growing the economy, seems like a good guy, entertaining people, star athlete, then you know what? He's going to be friendly to you too. And I like it. It's very good. This is very presidential.
Mookie, that guy can play, can't he? I mean, unbelievable. You really, Mookie is, I've been watching it. I don't want to say I watched him when he was on Boston, but I did. I didn't think that was a particularly good trade when they made it, and I happen to be right.
All right, cool. So there you go. It's good stuff. So he looks comfy. He's having a good time, the pro athletes. All right. So let's get back to the tariffs and let's see the key arguments here that I'm seeing today. And again, the stock market's flat today. So, you know, the massive sell-off might not be here. Just don't panic. Remember, we had the egg prices. They told us the egg prices never come down. They came down almost right away. So there's no reason to panic here. And the good news is that if there's some pain, that it could perhaps help Trump along to get his tax cuts and the deregulation, and then things could start roaring back. Now, I will say, though, I have some issues with the way the president's team is messaging. This is something that's bothered me a little bit for a couple weeks. I don't feel like there's been terrific messaging on this. And I'm going to give you an example of this. I was complimenting him last week, but here's Howard Lutnick, Commerce Secretary on TV, messaging on the tariff. Check this out.
Great American workers. You know, we are going to replace
on other
the
networks.
armies of millions of people. Well, remember, the army of millions and millions of human beings screwing in little screws to make iPhones. That kind of thing is going to come to America. It's going to be automated, and great Americans, the trade craft of America, is going to fix them. It's going to work on them. They're going to be mechanics. There's going to be
Okay, so this is not what we're talking about here, is we're going to have Americans screwing in little screws on iPhone or figuring out how to make a robot that'll screw in screws. Like, that's not it. That's not it. If those of you caught my show with John Carney last week, when he was on, and we discussed how he's got this concept of this dashboard for a car, state of the art, and the people who are building it are obsessed. They love it, and they're deeply committed to it. And those types of people seeing this perfect dashboard come together, the mechanics of it, the machinery, the technology, and then to see that go into the car and how satisfying that is and how that's a hard day's work that has a great payoff at the end with deep satisfaction. And that's what we're talking about. That's the heart of America in our working class, the way it's always been, is that you have a good day's work for an honest day's pay. And it is, you get your benefits and then you go home satisfied because you put in a good day's work and you built something. We're not talking about sitting there and like screwing in stuff or building some AI to screw in. I don't know. That's not the sales pitch. The sales pitch is, think about the American character and the American spirit and how building things with our hands was the backbone of our society. And that's how we grew to be the powerhouse that we are. And these are not just, you know, little pieces of technology. These are things that are huge parts of people's daily lives. For example, parts of their car and the satisfaction of building a combustion engine, for example. So that's got to be where the messaging is. It's got to be about having good paying jobs with great wages, with great benefits, and with great satisfaction that you're building something that not just makes you feel good, but it helps your country. It's got to be closer to that, right? It can't just be we're going to have armies of people screwing in screws. And that's not exactly what he's saying, but it's just not crisp. It's not there. Scott Bessent was on Tucker's show. He does a little better. Let me play a little clip of this. Check this out.
The distribution of equities across households, the top 10% of Americans own 88% of equities, 88% of the stock market. The next 40% owns 12% of the stock market. The bottom 50 has debt. They have credit card bills. They rent their homes. They have auto loans, and we've got to give them some relief. That I was struck by the statistic from last year.
That's the message right there. Just as a bystander, I'm like, wow, okay.
All right.
Yeah, Tucker, obviously pro messenger, and he just, that's exactly my thought, is that when you think about all these people who are saying that we're in some sort of an oligarchy and we're only looking out for the billionaires. You heard the data. The vast majority of people are not the big stockholders. The stocks that we're talking about that everyone's obsessed with, stock market's coming down. Now, I know that a lot of people have some investment in the stock market, and the richer people, they can handle the sell-offs even better. But it is a small part of the economy, and it's something that is populated. The people who have the biggest shares and biggest stakes are the elite. The people that we've been told Trump is actually defending, Trump doesn't care at all about the elite. He's showing that. He's showing you that he's looking out for the American people. He's looking out for the long-term survivability and sustainability. He's not looking at the tech oligarchs. He's not looking at the hedge fund managers right now. He is looking at the people who maybe had their businesses gutted during coronavirus. They're small businesses. Maybe we were the ones who were told that their small businesses couldn't stay open. He's looking at normal people whose factory jobs were sustaining their family maybe for generations in the middle of our country, and then they got outsourced to China. That's who he's looking at. He's not looking at all the people who are deeply invested in the stock market for now. And I'll tell you, he did the last presidency and didn't go well for him. He was very obsessed with the stock market, and I was kind of thinking, I don't know if this is going to hit enough people hard enough. And as it turned out, it didn't work. It didn't work as a strategy to only focus on the stock market. I want to play that a little bit again from the start, just so you get this data, and then I'll let him roll a little bit longer.
Distribution of equities across households, the top 10% of Americans own 88% of equities, 88% of the stock market. The next 40% owns 12% of the stock market. The bottom 50 has debt. They have credit card bills, they rent their homes, they have auto loans, and we've got to give them some relief. That I was struck by the statistic from last year.
That's the message right there. Just as a bystander, I'm like, wow, okay.
All right. Or that I like the examples, and I was really struck by two different statistics last year. Summer of 2024, Americans took more European vacations than they had in history. Summer of 2024, more Americans were using food banks than they ever have in history. I went into two food.
So this is the whole point that the left is always message on this, and this is where they're schizophrenic, is that this is one of their concepts that they would say, is that the rich are getting richer and the poor is getting poorer. And now Trump is actually trying to address this. He's not worried about the rich getting richer, and then the left is all lighting their hair on fire. So important to understand that that is where they're at right now, is that there was a big anti-Musk rally in LA over the weekend, and Neil Young's out there, and Joe Baez is out there, and Bernie Sanders is out there, and AOC's out there, and they're railing against the oligarchy. Why are they railing against the oligarchy? Trump is doing something now. He's taking out a policy, carrying out a policy that benefits working class Americans, and temporarily at the expense of the elite. Now, I think long-term, the elite are going to do even better this way. But at the moment, the elite lost 10% out of their holdings this week. Okay, fine. But what about the normal people? That's who Trump is looking out for, and that's who Scott Bessent's talking to right now.
The two food banks near my hometown to ask, what's the story? And they said, it really takes... For a lot of people, it's a loss of dignity to walk in a food bank.
Of course.
But they were seeing a new phenomenon, that it wasn't their traditional clientele. It wasn't people who'd lost their homes. It wasn't people out on the street. These were working families who could no longer, $100 at the grocery store, that basket of groceries every week, they were missing 5, 6, 7 things, and they were coming to the food bank to top up. So, that's not a great America. Record European vacation, record food banks. And, no reason we can't keep the record European vacations going, but we got to take care of these other people.
Yeah, it's so good. So that's good messaging. So that was not the lightning messaging. And again, I'm not trying to pick on guys. Like I think they're doing a good job for the most part, but the messaging on the tariffs is not great. It's interesting because I asked Trish Regan about this in our interview last week, and she said she didn't like the messaging, and it seems like she's sort of emphasized that on some of her social accounts also. So I think people are aligned that Trump needs to sell these things a little better. Bessent did a nice job there. So I think that's very good. And he's saying, we're not opposed to the European vacations. That's not bad. That's a sign that people are doing well, but it's really the amount of people show up at the food banks. It's a big deal. And I'll tell you, for me personally, I mean, just getting hit at the grocery store is just unbelievable. I feel like I make a routine run and it's $190, and it was never like that. It was never like that. Okay. All right. Trump had a very amusing, but also, I think, poignant truth bomb. He says, the United States has a chance to do something that should have been done decades ago. Don't be weak. Don't be stupid. Don't be a Panican, a new party based on weak and stupid people. Be strong, courageous, and patient. Great word. And greatness will be the result. I love it. That's my message. And I think all of you just hang tough. We're going to be fine. So, but I want to give you some arguments, and I want to give you some reassurance here on the show. So I'll continue to bring it up because there's a lot of heat out there, but I think we're in not bad shape. And again, stock market flat today, gold still 3,000. A lot of stuff for us to be encouraged. And you still see the left lying too, which is a big deal. Like, check out Elizabeth Warren. Check this out.
Social Security is a program that people pay for all of their working lives. 73 million Americans depend on Social Security, and they paid for those Social Security benefits. Out of every paycheck, they were putting money into the Social Security system on the sacred promise that when the time came that they were no longer working, they would be able to count on Social Security for food, for a roof over their heads, for some real financial security.
All of this is bogus. Every bit of it is bogus, including her pronunciation of program. She's no right to say program. The guy, once you start taking a professorship at Harvard, you got to retire the use of program. That's the only Southern gentlemen get that opportunity. They're not coming after Social Security. We've said this over and over again. There's no evidence he's coming after Social Security, and she goes out there and lies. But I'll tell you, I like the lie in the sense that it's a good sign for us that they have nothing. It's a good sign. They have no messaging. They have no leadership. They have no message that's going to resonate other than we don't like Musk. And do you see the stock market went down a little bit? So I find it actually reassuring in a way. All right. I want to check in some more lefties. This is important to do. Let's see what they're messaging on these days. Here is, what do we got? We got Senator Mark Kelly in his new pickup truck. Check this out.
Mark Kelly.
We just got done with Vote-A-Rama.
234. What happened?
Yeah, it is, Republicans got their bad bill passed. It's giving big tax cuts to billionaires and multimillionaires.
He doesn't even know it's his legislation. There's no big tax cuts for billionaires and multimillionaires have been passed yet.
At the expense of regular people that are just trying to put food on the table. It's bad.
What kind of cuts do they cut?
They're cutting Medicaid. And when Elon Musk calls Social Security a Ponzi scheme, people on Social Security are at risk.
Yeah. Not right.
Bad deal.
Yeah, so it's more Social Security. Let's see. You see this? They have no messaging. Letitia James, who is one of the key lawfare architects who ran for Attorney General of New York to try to prosecute Donald Trump, tried her best to do that, and luckily Trump survived it. Much more on her later in the year. We'll spend a lot of time going through the lawfare superstructure later in the year. But I will tell you that she's out there with Al Sharpton's National Action Network. Check out what she's on.
57 years after the assassination of Dr. King. And Dr. King talked about that stone of hope. And it's that stone of hope that gives me a fire in my belly each and every morning. It's that stone of hope that allows me to wake up and to stand to Donald Trump and to say, Donald Trump, I'm not afraid of you. It's that stone of hope. It's that stone of hope that gives me power. That's that stone of hope and the belief in each and every one of you to let you know that I'm not going to allow my ancestors, all of those who died for me, to be in this position. I am not going to disgrace them and disappoint them. I am going to use the law both as a sword and as a shield and challenge Donald Trump. And each and every time he issues an illegal executive order, I am going to stand up to him because he represents to me sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity. Sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity.
All right, so she loves Al Sharpton. Trump's ignorant, he's stupid. These are not arguments that are going to convince people that are convincible to come around to their side. So it's important just to show you that the passion is there. They're incredibly passionate. They're very full of themselves. They're smug with their own arrogance. And they hate this man so much, and they hate what he stands for. And then he's out there with the major leaguers having a great time celebrating the World Series. So it's a nice contrast, but just show you that is a person who's a law enforcement official in this country, a person who has the opportunity to bring cases and to harass people, and that's her political worldview. Is just she's got sincere biases that are very scary stuff, and noteworthy to point out. All right, I mentioned this on the last show, on Friday's show. I was on Loring Room Show, and the task was for me, and they always have really interesting prompts, to come up with deranged things Democrats said last week. And I was asked about none of the things that I prepared on the show, but I will tell you, here are some things that I found. I was doing some digging just to continue on my theme of that they got nothing. So take, for example, State Senator Lindsey Williams of Pennsylvania, who suggested that male and female athletes are physically interchangeable. You guys know my take on this, is that we need a college or university to step up. They got to field an all-male women's basketball team. They're going to win the national championship. They're going to score 150 points a game. We're going to have fun watching it. I mean, it's just going to be a dunkathon every day. And then it's going to put this issue to bed, the trans issue. So it's male and females are not interchangeable physically. And it's an anti-science position. It should be an outrage. But this just goes by, and I didn't even notice it until I was assigned the research assignment by Laura's team. All right, Colorado Democrat said a birth is more expensive than abortion. And they're calling babies now averted births. So this is anti-human, right? I mean, if you're talking about basically the life of a human being is just an economic problem, remember that this is, the left sees everything as a money issue. And they see things not as, this is someone named Rep. Julie McCluskey of Dillon. This is who is talking about for Colorado that they are encouraging people essentially to get abortions and to avert birth, because it costs money to have a baby. Yes, but it also is the most meaningful and fulfilling thing. It's the point of it all, is to have babies. But I was thinking about this. You guys know I'm a horror movie guy. There's so many of my horror movies that start off with a premise which is more innocent than this. This is more sinister than a lot of my movies start out. Like the premise that, we're trying to avert births now. This is the road to genocide. And just shows you why people in the pro-life world do regard it as genocide. Because if this is the thinking of the pro-choice crowd, it's just amazing. And we got to elevate this stuff. We got to share with people, this is how they really think in their heart. It is not about safe, legal, and rare abortions. It's not about when, some 15-year-old is sexually assaulted by someone in their family. Like they act like that's when the abortions happen. No, they want to avert births to save money. So important to remember that. It's a budgetary issue. So it's obviously eugenicist to do this. And who is going to, if you're trying to avert birth to save money, this, of course, hits the poor. And in this country, that's going to hit minorities as well. So this is a message that would resonate with people who want to just eliminate certain races of people or to cut back on certain races of people, because certain races are on average poor in this country. And so if you're arguing to have abortions as an economic issue, that's eugenics. So by the way, they also want the state funds to pay for the abortions. So they want to save you money by taking your tax dollars to abort the babies. All right. So Senator Markey was saying withholding money from Harvard over anti-Semitism is authoritarian. So Harvard's got a $30 billion endowment. They don't need any more money. And demanding taxpayers pay for what FIRE calls the most anti-free speech school in the country. So we have funding that goes there, even though they got $30 billion. So $30 billion, I mean, if you're making 7% a year on average, I mean, just with their endowment alone, they should be able to pay for their own budget and then some, right? So they don't need any money, period. They don't even need tuition money at this point. So they should be fully self-sustaining as an institution, and yet we still give them taxpayer money. So, and to say that we don't want to do that anymore because they allow a lot of anti-Semitism, that's not authoritarian. That's just, we just don't want to waste our money on radicals. My other idea for wild things Democrats said last week was Cory Booker's whole 25-hour speech, because he doesn't have a single original idea. No one knows why he did the speech and why he wanted to do the speech. It was pointless. It had no direction. No one knows one line that he said, and he spoke for an entire day. So he set a record for what purpose? No one knows. Do you guys even remember that he did that? Some of you probably don't remember. He's probably already forgotten. So, all right. And then, of course, the biggest one, Jamie Raskin demanding Trump return gang members to the U.S. Just so wild that they would do this. So we got him in the corner. We got him back in the corner. One other Capitol Hill item I will mention, I got a little clip of the ladies for the bipartisan effort to try to get proxy voting, which I've always regarded as unconstitutional. But let's hear their case. Let's see if this is convincing to y'all.
Historically, it's been much more wealthy, older men who serve in Congress. This isn't designed for young families and for young women especially.
Congress was designed and built for old white men to represent themselves. And, we've made a lot of progress since then. We get into it because we're public servants and we care about representing our community. But there should be some accommodations for family things that come up, like the birth of a child.
It's not like I'm faking, to go party in Cabo, right? Like I'm actually trying to A, recover, but then B, also care for a newborn.
Our job is to represent.
Okay, so first of all, I like Anna Paulina Luna, who doesn't, but it's they are going to proxy vote when they're partying in Cabo. I mean, that's what happens. Of course, that's what's going to happen. If you can proxy vote, you're going to this is the road to the Joe Biden's auto pen. I mean, that's where we're going with this. So this is not convincing. And people have been pointing out, shouldn't there be more done to make sure that tax cuts get done, the deregulation, and, a lot of people showing up and immediately getting to work, making their lives easier so that they can have more favorable work conditions for themselves. It's just not really the point. There's only 538 members of our Congress, if you look at both houses, and it's the give or take, that's roughly what the number is. And if that's the case, if you have one of those jobs, not that many jobs, you got to show up and vote. It's kind of the job. So that's been the job. And it's one of these things where if you're on a sports team, that you get to call a lot of shots and you make a lot of money and you're a very rich person, but if the game's in Madison Square Garden, you got to go to Madison Square Garden or you can't do the job. You can't do the game from LA if you are playing the Knicks in New York. So I don't see it at all. And I find it's interesting, this CBS Evening News, why do this interview? Because I was more sympathetic before I heard this interview. Now I heard this interview, I'm like, okay, now I'm totally out on this thing. I was on the fence before, but definitely in the no proxy voting camp officially for now. Though I still don't get why the whole week's agenda was tied to defeating this by Mike Johnson. Johnson's doing okay in the tariffs, though. We got a tariff clip with Johnson. Let's check in with Johnson, see what he's up to.
Do you still trust the president on tariffs? Trillions of dollars in the market have been lost.
We have to give the president space. His strategy is playing out. It's been less than a week, so I think he's owed that.
Great, perfect. That's what we want. It's only been a week. Let's not panic. Never goes well when we panic. All right, one fun one to round things out. So Snow White just continues to bomb. It's not even at $100 million yet. So on pace to lose at least $115 million for Disney. But now what Disney's going to do is they've shelved a live action Rapunzel, which is from the movie Tangled. Any of you parents in the audience see Tangled? Tangled's a good one. It's good. Tangled gets a lot of spin. We're in the group in the Marlow household. We think Tangled is superior to Frozen. So if you want a sort of girl-centric Disney that's pretty recent. So Tangled was 2010. It did very well at the box office, and they were going to be doing a new live-action version the same way they've done the live-action Snow White and so many others, the Aladdin, Lion King, stuff like that. So they were going to do it, and they've shelved it because of how badly Snow White did. Or did they? Because my theory is they shelved it because they bet they put a lot of woke stuff in it. Maybe they're waiting to see because they got a new live action Lilo and Stitch coming out this year, another one of our favorites at the Marlow household. But the live action Tangled, I'm guessing they already did it and it's filled with woke, and they've done these woke casting choices, and they've made changes to the original for the sake of woke. It's a romantic story between two white people falling in love, like good looking white people. Can you do that? And so then if you change it, so it's definitely not going to be two good-looking white people, I'm guessing, falling in love. Do people want to go see it? I don't know. But that's my guess. I think they're lying to us. And the groomers at Disney, they cannot get out of their own way. All they have to do is create politically neutral content. We don't need right-wing content. Just make politically neutral content, and they will have a monopoly yet again on kids' entertainment. But they can't do it. They can't help themselves. So that's my official prediction, is it was shelved because they have not quite yet learned their lesson on woke. And it's not just that Snow White did badly, but Snow White is doing really, really badly. All thanks to Rachel Zegler, their woke star. Those of you who've heard me talk about it and don't understand how horrible she is, I did ask Misty to pull this little compilation of her being irritating. And so I will share this with you right now.
Love that. I'm obsessed. Oh my God.
That's so nice of you to say.
Yeah. And what drew you to this movie?
If I'm going to stand there 18 hours in a dress of an iconic Disney princess, I deserve to be paid for every hour that it is streamed online. I get.
Okay, so she wants to be paid for every hour that the movie streamed online because she had to stand there taking pictures in the
I
dress.
get stopped for photos every time I'm online for the Snow White ride, and it is I have to pretend like, oh God, well, crazy that we're in front of this.
Wait, how often are you in line for the Snow White ride?
I'm a narcissist.
It's important. She says it like it's a joke, but she obviously is a narcissist because she completely blew up a huge piece of Disney intellectual property just because she likes her. She's got these horrible political positions that all Trump people should suffer and Hamas is good. So it is weird that she admitted that she goes to the Snow White ride, and no one thinks of her as Snow White. Everyone thinks of her as a weird, annoying little girl. So she didn't create this. The Snow White ride has been there for decades. It's nothing to do with her at all. Very strange person. All right, I got a lot more, but I feel like I got my point across. I do want to start doing more email. I've been very negligent on the email because you guys know I've been bouncing around in deep research mode, which is really winding down. And I can't wait to share with you some of the stuff I've been working on. But let me share. I've got a few emails today. John Hall says he's got the JD problem. He emails. Oh, yeah, aloha at alexmarlow.com. Questions, comments, anything that you feel like I brought up on the show that you want to address and not on the show. If you're curious about something, if you got a recipe you want me to try, just send it my way. I love hearing from all of you. It's nice to interact. Okay, Alex, while I appreciate the hold strategy with the tariff thing, I think it's short-sighted. You have to admit the tariff poster board and math and basic philosophy was kind of a miss. Basic philosophy, good. The tariff poster board, we went through this with Carney. It was not good. There were some problems with the poster, the way Trump drew it up, the way his people drew it up. I did not like that poster from the Rose Garden, as we explained. It did not, I think, paint a clear picture of the problem. And one of the three columns, I think the math was fuzzy math. It was not something that you could take and use to argue. But there were a couple good things. You know, you see the discrepancy between the tariffs Vietnam imposes on us and vice versa, and that does matter. Anyway, all right, he continues. I get what he's trying to do, but was there a better way? I think so. Wouldn't dropping the corporate tax to 0% provide the same incentives for business without all the upheaval? I think politically that's an even harder sell, 0% corporate tax. He continues, corporations don't pay tax anyway. Conservative economists know this. Kind of true. Stop all visas for countries that tariff us and another non-economic incentive might work. Right, but if you're a really talented person, we punish ourselves if we're a really talented person who wants to pay for Trump's gold card, but they're in a country there's a lot of tariffs. I don't think that's how the immigration system is going to work. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And the corporations don't pay any taxes. That's kind of smart because corporations do figure out a way to not end up paying taxes. So my concern is that with these new policies, which are structural, they're going to bring a lot of economic pain that the Democrats are going to be able to point and run on. Possible, but I think maybe not. That's why we had to move fast, get these done now, and let the economy recover. And I think it's going to bounce back in a big way. I just don't think the broader public has the stomach for it. Might jazz up 70% of Republicans, but that's not going to win elections. I'm much more optimistic. He goes on, Trump is gambling with JD's future unnecessarily. It's not good. You might think Dems don't have a bench. I will tell you to beware of Maryland Governor Wes Moore. Okay, we could do some Wes Moore content down the road. He knows that Wes Moore he can talk without sounding drunk. I haven't spent a lot of time on Wes Moore, but these guys always disappoint. So I feel like if he was that great, we would have known by now. So I'll keep an eye on it. But gambling with JD's future for me, that's not Trump's prerogative right now. I hope JD has a great longevity. I would be very comfortable with him as president. I don't think we as a political party should be anointing anyone. I don't know why we would do that. So, because what's going to happen is that a lot of people think JD's already anointed. And then there are going to be people who don't think he should be anointed. He's 40 years old and he's relatively new to the scene politically. And, he doesn't call them all right. He's my favorite guy. He's the guy I endorsed for vice president. Trump asked me who I would want. I said JD and only JD. But it's healthy to have a primary, go back and forth, debate ideas, sharpen each other's blade. So I don't think Trump needs to sit around thinking about JD's future. I think Trump needs to do what he thinks is the policy that got him elected and make sure he executes on them as well as possible. So, but I think a very compelling question to raise. So thank you, John. Rebecca emails, Alex, I love your shows. I imagine Andrew's reaction to all this up in heaven. I'm in Maryland running a small office in North Carolina. She says she's an MD, by the way. My brother is an internist with a tiny office in Pennsylvania. Care and doctor-patient relationships have decreased, and she gives a couple of data points, including a lot of cuts to certain things and government interference in the medical world. She said she didn't know she needed an MBA to be a doctor. I love my patients, just want to care for people. My office is in the black and earn some income, but everything in healthcare seems against this. I just want to share my thoughts. One of the last remaining small offices are gone and they aren't coming back. Yeah, it's true because the government pays for so much of our healthcare system, and then a lot of the rest of it is paid for the drug companies, the universities, the cities, the counties. So yeah, there's not a lot of private medicine anymore. And I don't see any way of reverting that, but I'm happy that the show helps you out as a depressed doctor. But I will note something that struck me in this is how doctor-patient relationships are getting worse. And this is true. And a lot of this is happening. I blame the coronavirus and the lying about the virus constantly, the public health sector, and I think the insistence that certain treatments were good and other treatments were not as good, despite what evidence might suggest. I think all of that was deeply problematic for the medical world. And it's going to be a long time to recuperate because I'll tell you, Mrs. Dr. Marlow tells me that she's, with her patients, that there's so much more second guessing now over recent years. There's so much more people thinking that the doctor is BSing them or trying to sell them something, which generally speaking, they're not. I know some of them are, but generally speaking, your doctor is trying to give you the best care the way they're trained to do it. And just everyone's just incredibly skeptical. I'm not saying it's bad to be skeptical. I'm just saying that the trust has really eroded. And I blame the public health sector more than anyone else. All right. Candace Jeffcoat emails. Hey, Alex, a big no on drinking through straws for me. Hold on. Got to do it. I'm out of water. Thirsty. I brought up on the show, should I stop with the straws on the live streams? I'm a straw guy. I like the straws. I've always thought they cause wrinkles around the mouth. That's a personal choice, whatever. I never thought much about others doing it. In a video call recently, I watched the female presenter use a straw with her big, giant sippy cup. Those cups they're not great looks. My cup's kind of medium size, like these are slimmies, but the big Stanley cup, sorry, no offense, Stanley, if you're thinking of sponsoring the show, but I don't know. I don't think it's great toting those cups around. I watched the female presenter use a straw, giant sippy cup, and made her look like a juvenile. I guess I'm team Jesse on this matter. Yeah, talking about Jesse Waters saying no straws. I'm new to your podcast, but your old show on SiriusXM is what turned me on to conservative talk radio. I'm now a big David Webb fan. I was on a Webb show last week. I love Webb. Great guy on SiriusXM. All right, that's great. Great email. And that's a vote against the straws. That's going to be today's show. It's a good show. I like that show. And if you're new to the audience, welcome. Thank you. I know I had a little boost in attention over the weekend, which I appreciate. It's a good show. You're going to like it. You're going to learn a lot, and we're going to have fun. Thanks to producer Misty. All of you, check out the Breitbart Fight Club as well. Telling 10,000 friends and family members about the show. Subscribing, liking, all that helps me in the algorithm. It helps me grow and bring you the best shows I possibly can. All right. Talk to you tomorrow.